Got my e-girl makeup on today. We're gonna have a good time. So I feel like I need to put a little bit of a disclaimer before this video. I'm not even monetized, so it probably doesn't even matter what words I use in here, but I'd like to be monetized one day, so I feel like I need to be a little bit careful with the words I use. But I hate those like euphemisms, those like stupid TikTok euphemisms. Anyways, this video is not bashing sex work. There is a reason why it is the oldest profession in the world. Many people turn to it just to survive. This video is not glorifying it, but I'm also not bashing it. The question of the century: why are goth women commodified? This video will be discussing objectification of goth and alternative women. You have to be living under a rock not to be aware of it. We're just gonna dive right into this very fun topic. If you're an alternative person, you're well aware of the big titty goth girlfriend meme. This might be a little weird, but this is like the relationship that I have with them. But my siblings-in-law joke that I am my husband's big titty goth girlfriend, wife. Jokingly, it's all in good fun. It's totally, we all laugh about it. But also, like, I hate that that meme exists. The, like, OnlyFansification of the goth subculture just like really irritates me. The big titty goth girlfriend and the manic pixie dream girl are actually two sides of the same coin. Women who are different, more men as well, but you see it more so with women. Women who are different from sort of society's expectation of what a woman should look like, how a woman should dress, act, etc., are seen as an accessory or an object rather than their own person. They're like a walking series of tropes almost, rather than a fully fleshed out three-dimensional human being with thoughts and feelings and opinions. Am I allowed to say fetish? I'm gonna say it anyways. This fetish or this exoticism stems from wanting to be seen with her, as in like, look at what I bagged almost, versus seeing her as a person, as a partner, just respecting another human being and treating them as a human being. Now, I understand seeing someone who's different from you, whether culturally or subculturally. I can understand seeing them as exotic. So I don't think it's a problem per se to have preferences in what you'd like in a partner. The problem stems from only being interested in that thing and not actually like who they are as a person. So it's one thing to be like, you know, for example, you're someone alternative, you want to be with someone alternative because you have shared values, you're interested in the same art, the same music, the same like fashion, you go to the same types of events. I get that. You're into that aesthetic for yourself, and I can understand being interested in a partner who also shares those things. It's another thing to be like,
I will only date big titty goth girls.
Only seeing them sort of as a monolith rather than like, you know, I want someone who's interested in these bands and has these values and like, oh, also happens to dress like that, and that's pretty cool too. You get what I'm saying? There's a difference there. One is like interested in all of what makes up that person versus being interested in like a trope. Do you enjoy that person's company? Do you know what their favorite food is? Do you know what their favorite perfume is? What their favorite song is? What happens when she takes off her makeup and her big platforms and she's in sweatpants and she looks like kind of a normal person, which is going to happen sometimes. It's probably going to happen more often than when she gets dressed up. Are you going to be as interested in her when she's what I call out of drag versus what I call in drag, all dressed up? I'm not even wearing lashes today. Normally I like to wear lashes for videos and stuff. Being on camera, like in my lights, it just washes everything out. Oh well, we're gonna continue because I've already started recording. I don't even know how to start this point, so I think I'm just gonna jump right in. There is an article that exists on the internet And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to link it actually in the description box because I think everybody in the alternative scene should read this article, because if I had to read it, then you guys have to read it. It's from Thought Catalog. It's from, I think, 2016. And it's called something along the lines of like why every guy should date a goth girl once in his life, or like something along those lines. And I feel like I need to read some quotes to you because it's something. It was in the 6th grade that I was introduced to a certain fashion, lifestyle, fetish that has since become my premier aesthetic quirk. All guys have a type. Some are into your standard restaurant waitress mold. Others are into the tatted up neo pinup template. And others are all about the artsy fartsy nerd chic. I think he meant to write chick, but anyways. And it was here, I suppose, that I developed mine, the all-American goth chick. End quote. Another one. Quote, and there was something about that I found inherently appealing. While everybody else found the goth girls to be terrifying, I found them oddly alluring. Others thought that their morbid, sad sack dispositions was the ultimate turnoff, but I thought it was inexplicably entrancing. Others saw them and wanted to run screaming the opposite direction. I fantasized about running towards them and being welcomed into their herd with loving polka dot warmer draped arms. End quote. I'm just going to stop there for a minute because that is, I don't even know where to begin with that one. It's a fantasy. Not all fantasies should become reality. Indeed, my very first makeout was with a girl wearing a literal pentagram on her forehead, and I was introduced to the joys of carnal pleasure by a young woman whose entire makeup chest was filled with nothing but novelty Halloween lipsticks and nail polishes. Throughout these dating sojourns, I uncovered a rarely spoken truth about the goth girl motif/stereotype. In fact, I soon learned that there are indeed 5 genuses of goth girl, each with her own idiosyncratic quirks. What the actual fuck, my guy? I'll let you guys read the article to read each genus, because that's what he reduces goth girls to, is a genus, an animal species. An interesting thing to note is none of his descriptions even describe an actual goth girl. Like, yeah, he sort of starts off on the right track and then moves straight into stereotypes. I'm honestly still not sure if this article is real or if it's satire, because if it's real, I am shocked that this guy is walking around in public. They're all just really bizarre stereotypes of what these gooner types think a goth girl actually is. It's kind of horrifying, actually. And I'll just read a couple more quotes because these made me think, is this a satirical article? Quote, because goth girls, for better or worse, represent the most diverse range of female personality types. Some are incredibly chill, while others are pretentious and, ironically, stuck up. Others are nauseatingly banal, downright obsessive, and on the deep, deep side of the pool, positively deranged. They'll make you laugh, they'll make you cry, they'll make you think profound existential thoughts, and they will, by design perhaps, make you want to yourself. Okay? Again, that's such a stereotype and has no reflection whatsoever on real goth or alternative women. I feel like this guy just loves the idea of a dark, crazy person wanting to date an idea, having a little bit of fun, and then going back to kind of dating normies after you've had this experience, because that's what it seems like he's talking about, is dating or hooking up with a goth, your big titty goth girl, is like a fun bucket list experience. And that's it. So objectifying. Okay, I'm going to read one more just to sort of bring my point home. Quote, you date nothing but cheerleaders or club girls or anime nerds for a year, and you won't learn any nobler truths about the universe. Spend a year dating nothing but goth girls, however, and an entire cosmos of previously unrevealed knowledge befalls you. Sometimes your diary is meant to remain private. I'm sick and tired of people thinking that alternative women often are an experience.
Oh my god, they're so different, they're so freaky, they're so this, they're so that.
Yes, there is a crossover between kink and BDSM and sort of alternative fashion, alternative subcultures. If you imagine a Venn diagram, there is that crossover, but I think there are still like, just because you're goth or alternative doesn't mean you're immediately kinky, which this guy thinks is sort of part of the subculture. And I feel like that stereotype is incredibly harmful and again just reduces goth and alternative women to a series of tropes rather than thinking of them like people. Novel thought there. Just because some goth and alternative women are into sort of the kink and BDSM scene doesn't mean that all of them are. And even if they are, it doesn't mean that we exist to play out your sexual fantasies either. Despite this article being written in 2016, I feel like this goonering of alternative women has just increased with platforms like TikTok. I'll also note that it's not specifically alternative women, it's conventionally attractive alternative women who are or are perceived to be sexually deviant and are put on this pedestal of like, this is the ideal woman, and almost like a prize to be won or an achievement to like be with a woman like this. But I don't think that these men are looking for something long term either. I think, again, it's like an accomplishment, it's an experience, it's sort of a temporary thing. Tick it off your bucket list and then move on. Why are you so obsessed with me? Why are men so obsessed with alternative women? I've got a few theories. The first one is a more optimistic outlook, and that is alternative women, at least the way that they present themselves externally, we seem very confident with being ourselves, with expressing ourselves however we want, coloring our hair, which this is actually a wig, but that's a secret, dressing in a non-conventional way, even if you are conventionally attractive, even if you do bold makeup in a way that's still conventionally attractive, you don't look like everyone else. And people do admire that level of confidence, and that is attractive to people. Confidence is sexy. A negative theory, that's actually a pretty good band name. Someone use that and tag me. I've got two negative theories, actually. Number one, they see someone who's so free and at ease with themselves that they just want to control that. Number two, they see someone who is portraying themselves as dangerous or edgy, and that's kind of hot. The same way that, the bad boy is such a common trope, it's kind of a similar idea. You're sort of romanticizing this idea of someone who you're not supposed to be with, someone who you're not supposed to be associating with. There's that element of danger, there's that element of like rebellion, even if that relationship might end up being toxic in real life. They love that idea of a goth girlfriend, but not what it takes to actually have that romantic relationship or whatever kind of relationship you decide to have. It almost feels like the precursor to incel-like thinking, where you sort of start to romanticize the idea of a person and then dilute them down so much that they're just a concept. A list of bullet points, they're not a real person. And also a series of physical traits. Again, I don't think preferences or having a type is inherently a bad thing. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to like only date goth girls or only want to date goth girls. I use goth in this instance as sort of an umbrella term for anyone alternative. But I do think it's weird if you don't respect the scene or the subculture. Now, you don't necessarily have to actually be a part of it. It's weird to like the optics of having a Morticia Addams on your arm while you look like a turd in flannel. As the line between real life and online spaces blur, more and more of our interactions in our communities live in the online space. I think some of this does boil down to the loneliness epidemic, especially with men. And I'm sort of making assumptions about this sort of gooner to simp to incel pipeline. So maybe that is a little unfair, but I'm just calling it like I see it. I do want to highlight that a lot of these girls and women are very comfortable being themselves, or at least, again, presenting that they are comfortable being themselves, especially in spaces that were once male-dominated, and I'd say up until very recently have been male-dominated, maybe even still are at this point. So I'm thinking, for example, like the gamer industry or like the metal fandom, for example, where you've got more women joining very, very recently, even though maybe it's still a male-dominated space. So a lot of these types of interactions are happening there. I don't know, maybe these men aren't used to talking to women, but this is your opportunity to meet women. I'm assuming a lot of these men, if not all of them, are straight. This is an opportunity to meet women who are into the same things as you. Don't be weird about it. I almost wonder if these women are so idealized and put on this pedestal because once they started to enter the alternative scene en masse, they're like unicorns, you know? It's like,
Oh, we haven't seen a girl here before.
but then again, don't be fucking weird about it. Another thing that's interesting that I will point out though, a lot of these alternative spaces and subcultures originally started as a rejection of the mainstream, including rejecting mainstream beauty standards. So I'm thinking like punk and goth especially. And it's interesting where we are in 2026, where at least in the online space, and obviously TikTok is not is not a reflection of like, you know, the actual subculture, but I mean, it's a lot of people's first exposure to it these days. It's conventionally attractive young women who have like the biggest accounts, which I just find interesting, although not surprising. This also means, of course, that conventionally attractive, very pretty young girls who are looking for a way to capitalize on that also hopped on that rising popularity of the alternative subculture, particularly alternative women, knowingly capitalized and cashed in on the fact that there are all of these, for lack of a better term, gooners fetishizing big titty goth girls. This is the perfect segue into e-girls and OnlyFans goth girls. So those of you who aren't familiar, e-girls are sort of an offshoot, I guess, of the scene and emo second wave from the 2010s. So e-girls kind of emerged from sort of an intersection of those subcultures with sort of gamer and anime subcultures and sort of formed this thing in the late 2010s and really reached a peak, I'd say, in like 2020 during the pandemic. I've seen it described as polished alternative, which I think is a pretty good way of describing it. It's almost like the TikTokification of alternative, a certain makeup style that seems to be very popular on TikTok, but sort of with a darker aesthetic. Heavily influenced by social media, it's sort of hyper stylized, hyper idealized, a hyper glamorized version of alternative. I'm sort of wearing a form of that today, although I forgot to put on my lashes, so it's not quite the vibe that I'm going for, but I really wanted to do the big lashes and I thought that would be really cute with the things, but anyways, I have limited time to film, so this is what we got. We're just carrying on. We can't talk about the cross-section between e-girls and OnlyFans alternative girls without talking about the infamous Belle Delphine. Love her or hate her, you kind of have to respect the hustle. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the controversy because there is a lot of controversy with her, but she saw an opportunity and she took it and she has done very well for herself. She understood her audience completely, knew exactly what they wanted, and sold them exactly what they wanted, probably at the expense of the alternative scene's reputation, particularly among women. Fetishizing this idea of an alternative, very young, barely legal looking alternative girl doing kinky things while also sort of having an edgy sense of humor about it. Like almost like you're not sure if the whole thing is sort of a joke. Maybe she's trolling everyone. So we're not discussing the ethics around it right now, but when you think about e-girl, you think about her. You think about the spiky lashes, you think about the pink hair, you think about her lips drawn a certain way. When you picture e-girl, you close your eyes, you picture e-girl, you picture Belle Delphine. Tell me I'm wrong. It sucks though because I really love this style. Like I would dress like this every single day, but I don't want to have this OnlyFans kinky, questionably legal or ethical discussion surrounding me. I just want to dress cute. Now, did she invent the overlap between alternative and over-sexualization of alternative people? No, of course not. But she definitely popularized it. I don't want my subculture to be thought of as a sex thing or kinky, but thanks to her, that trope has sort of become kind of inseparable, especially with e-girl. If I search e-girl on Instagram or TikTok, I just want cute outfit inspo. I don't want your OnlyFans links. And I feel like 90% of the time, especially, oh my God, especially on the goth fashion subreddit, the mods have worked really hard to try and get rid of these posts. But like, there was a point in time where every other post would be like, what do you think of my outfit? And it's just like a skimpy black outfit with a black wig on and black lipstick. And then when you click on their profile, it's just a link to their OnlyFans. Why? Can't we just enjoy a cute look without it being a marketing ploy to get people to subscribe to your OnlyFans? Maybe I'm just naive. Thanks to Belle Delphine, though, once she became so popular, every single fucking e-girl started to dress exactly like her. The pink wig, the long spiky lashes, the doing her lips the same way, that stupid fucking ahegao face, the like, I can't even do it that well. Oh my God. Like everywhere, just copy clones of her everywhere you looked. That was the entire like online Instagram alternative scene for a while, and it was like there was no originality. At least be original with it, you know? And pretty much every single, well, not every single one, but almost every single one linked back to their OnlyFans. Look, I know it worked for her, but do you think you're going to be that successful also? Again, have some originality. Do something else with it. I don't know. Again, I want to reiterate, I sound like a broken record, but it's really important that I reiterate that liking or preferring alternative girls on the surface isn't something bad. It's not a kink. It's not something, it's not objectifying. Everyone has likes and dislikes. Everyone has preferences. I think when it comes to having a preference for alternative women because you expect them to be kinkier or a novelty and sort of objectifying in that way, you know, seeing them as something exotic, devoid of a personality, like they just exist for your sexual fantasies, if you will, that's bad. If you're part of the alternative subculture or you're just interested in the alternative subculture, you just think alt girls are cool because you're interested in sort of, you know, everything surrounding that. You want to get to know an alternative person because you're interested in them. Obviously, that's fine. You know, that's I feel like normal dating. It becomes harmful when you see being with an alt girl as an accomplishment. You're not excited to be with Haley. You're excited to be with any alt girl. You know, she's replaceable with anyone else. Then that becomes problematic and objectifying. Kind of common sense, but maybe it's not common sense. She's replaceable to you because in your mind, all alt girls are the same. We're not. To some men, they're a walking series of stereotypes all wrapped up in a corset and fishnets, and that's just objectifying. It's also weird and harmful to want to be with someone who's so authentically themselves that you want to change them, or that you don't respect anything about them. You know, you have no interest in even just learning about their subculture. And again, they're like a trophy. It's weird. Like also, for these gooner types, why do you think that somebody that you put on this pedestal would be interested in you romantically, sexually, whatever? Like, what are you bringing to the table? So here's my very lukewarm take. Treat people like people. Do you want to be reduced to a series of assumptions based on your interests? Try this. Treating people the way you want to be treated. Boom. Single-handedly solved the dating crisis. You can thank me. My PayPal is listed below. In all seriousness, the fetishization of alternative and goth subcultures is really nothing new. But what can we do to change that? Let's try and do something productive about this, because I, for one, just really get annoyed with the OnlyFansification of alt girls, the way that sort of the stereotype is when you see somebody dressed up with unnaturally colored hair, especially a wig, and, you know, sort of dressed in an e-girl or e-girl adjacent way, the assumption is that she has an OnlyFans, and I think that's a pretty harmful stereotype. There's been trends on social media within the alternative space. I'm sure it's also beyond there. I can't remember exactly how the trend goes, but it's basically, I'm an alternative person. Here are some unexpected facts about me, or like things that I'm interested in that you wouldn't expect, that don't really fit the alternative stereotype, and sort of shattering that stereotype that, all goth girls belong to one of 5 archetypes and this is exactly how they are. It sort of breaks that perception and shows that, hey, we're normal people too, actually. We have a wide variety of interests. I want to see more trends or movements like that, because I think showing that, hey, we're just like you, just maybe with like a spookier skin, is just a great way to sort of break barriers a little bit. You might always have this sort of goth, dommy mommy simps, but maybe those of us posting in the online alternative space can maybe do more things to show that, we're more than just the way we dress up, the platforms we wear, the spiky lashes, the whatever. I don't know, show a bit more of our personalities and normalize how normal we can be. Even if we look the way that we look, there's a real person underneath all this makeup and hair and platforms. With that, maybe steer the narrative away from this perception of alternative girl equals OnlyFans girl. Then again, we are alternative. So do we really care about what people think? I'll let you decide.